I tripped and rolled down a hill, embarrassing myself in front of my girlfriend and her roommate. Anyways, the roommate and I are married now. Askreddit. Reddit, what's your anyways, we're married now story? My great-grandparents met because my great-grandfather was delivering the newspaper to my great-grandmother's house, and her brother, though he was trespassing and tried shooting at him, my great-grandmother felt bad and bought him lunch. They were together for over 75 years and lived a very happy life. Good thing your great-great-uncle wasn't a good shot. Took him 75 years before he finally mastered the gun. Co-worker's boyfriend's brother came up to stay with them. We have to have you out for dinner with him, you have a lot in common, he likes nerdy things too. You're not allowed to date him though. Definitely dated and married him. Co-worker and now brother-in-law broke up around the time we got engaged, he's better without her. I can see how, if you're close friends with someone, it might be pretty fucking weird for you both to be dating within the same family. Lol. My brother told me I'm not allowed to date my current boyfriend because he's also the drummer in our band. Not married, but I did wait 3 years before finally giving in, and the whole world, even my brother, was just begging us to drop the act and get together already. I met my husband when I got a new job at a grocery store, and the guy from the deli came up and yelled at me for hanging up on customers when I couldn't figure out the phone transfer process. He was that guy from the deli, and anyway, we're married now. This is so cute. I would laugh if were a caller and you hung up on me. He was the meat guy, and you got his meat. Met a girl online about 20 years ago one summer after college, found out we live in nearby towns, so decided to get together. Go out on a few dates, drive by local preschool. Me, hey, that's where I went to preschool. Her, that's where I went to preschool. That day we find a preschool class photo, there we are 2 feet from each other. A few months later, my dad finds some old footage of a Christmas play our preschool class put on. We're standing right next to each other. Met a girl online about 20 years ago. I was like, haha, bullshit, there wasn't internet and ... Oh, wait. A 20-year-old online meet-up would be pretty hard. Was it on AOL or similar? That was a large community. I met my wife when I interviewed her for a job. Right after our first kiss he said, "I'm not looking to get married." "Neither am I," I replied. So anyway, we're married now. All this is so cute. My dad threw a paper airplane at the back of my mom's head in college. She told him to grow up. Anyways, they've been married now for over 36 years. I'm willing to bet he still hasn't grown up though. Well, he got the girl. He has no reason to grow up anymore. When we first met, his first words to me were, "I'm gonna wife you," and I scoffed. Anyways, we're married now. But did he wife you, or did you husband him? This happened to me, but the guy said, "Oh, I'd put the baby in ya," after I mentioned something about wanting kids, and I rolled my eyes. 2.5 years later, our 6-week-old son is asleep in a bassinet beside me right now. A man of his word. What a heartwarming story about promising to come inside someone. We met in the psychiatric hospital. Anyways, we're married now, 30 years this June. The 30 years makes this one extra special. It's rare when two people can truly be each other's anchors in that way, especially with that longevity and stability. I'm seriously happy for you both. Made a Reddit account just for this. 20 years ago, an exchange student transferred to my school for the year, and although we didn't talk a lot, we had so much in common, and it was really nice to be able to talk with someone who had super different views on life. We actually both played the same instrument, we had the same model guitar, surprisingly. Anyways, she went back to her home country after the year was over, and I never spoke with her again. However, she got me fascinated with her culture, so I researched a bit, and eventually a year later I was able to transfer to her country through a program. I got placed in a random school throughout the entire country. I joined the school's light music club, and as I'm walking in on the first day there, I open the door and guess who I see? The same girl playing the fuck out of her guitar. I kid you not, as soon as we made eye contact, I just sat there with my jaw open in disbelief. I dropped my guitar to the floor, causing a chip that I can still see to this day, ha. Anyways, fast forward to today and we're married. Wife asked me to add this part. We ended up forming a band for the school's summer show, and after our performance backstage, with all the adrenaline running through our veins, we kissed, confessed our feelings. It's not as romantic as you'd think. From an outside view it was probably seen as two awkward teens backing. We both were sweaty and smelly, and I had face makeup all over me, haha. She makes fun of me saying that I would have never had the guts otherwise, but seriously, what are the chances? On our first date he tried showing off by drifting down a gravel road and tore through a ranch fence. Anyway, we're married now. Also, you married Jeremy Clarkson. Fun. Wait. He crashed. Also, you married Richard Hammond. Fun. This one made me laugh so hard for some reason. I would totally marry a guy like that too. So when my wife were dating, she got pneumonia and didn't have health insurance. Asked her to elope to get on my insurance, and 2 weeks later we're married. I married my then girlfriend because her parents stopped helping her pay for college and student loan. People factor in your parents' income regardless of whether they're actually helping you pay for school. Unless you're married. 7 years later, she's got her degree, and we're still happily married. America. I was flying short-haul domestic, 1.5-hour flight. I was sat next to this beautiful woman and I found myself doing the opposite of what I'd normally do in that situation. I made small talk with her. We chatted for the entire flight, and we both seemed to not want it to end. But then the flight did, and we parted ways without even exchanging numbers. She was a visitor to the country and I expected never to see her again. A few weeks later, I'm boarding an international flight, and there she is, on the plane, about 10 rows in front of me. After takeoff, I asked the lady next to her if she'd like to swap seats with me, as I had an empty seat next to mine. She accepted. We spent the 12-hour flight chatting again, this time a lot more deeply. Anyways, one thing led to another and we got married less than 3 months later. Unfortunately, that's not the end of the story. She passed away less than a year after we were married. But that time we had together was perfect, every last second of it. I moved to China to teach middle school. Was introduced to another teacher while we were still in the Beijing airport. So anyway, we're married now and have adopted 2 kids from Korea. Your story sounds so much like the thing with Ross and Julie from Friends, lol. In 2nd grade, I was voted class favorite. Why was this ever a thing? Horrible idea for kids' self-esteem, along with the weird fella who I had trouble believing anyone even voted for because he was quite reserved and bland. In the 5th grade I remember the same guy getting called to the front of the class to write his answer on the board. He was awkward and dressed accordingly. The girl seated behind me very quietly commented his booty looked like it'd be eaten his pants. Only I heard this, but it was a humorously accurate observation. After 5th grade I never saw him/heard from him again until we were 21. He showed up at my house to purchase a vehicle we had for sale after my dad passed exactly 1 month earlier. I only recognized him after my mom wrote his name on a receipt for purchasing the car. I reminded him of our time as class favorite and my mom made a show of breaking out the yearbooks. Anyways, we're happily married now. I was in 8th grade and she was a year younger. I had a thing with her best friend. Was walking home with said best friend when she joined us. Absolutely lost it inside when I saw her. Looked so beautiful and cute walking home with her violin in hand. Her parents had a rule about dating till she was 16. They came around eventually. Not for a few tough years. Today was 8 years together. Known and been hooked on each other for 11. Getting married May of 2022. I still wake up every day and realize how absolutely lucky I am to have her. I had a cold, and went on a date to an Irish pub. I was eating bangers and mash and had the urge to cough. I tried to keep my mouth shut, but just wound up spraying his face with gravy and mashed potatoes through my pursed lips. I was still coughing, so I took a sip of my drink to soothe my throat. It was beer. The bubbles tickled my throat more. I also spit that all over his face. He stared at me in disgusted horror as gravy, mashed potatoes and beer dripped down his face onto his shirt. I laughed and laughed and laughed, making my apologies sound very insincere. Anyways, we're married now. Thank goodness our booth had high backs so only he suffered. Now that's a story you will be sharing with your grandchildren. That was hilarious. You should try vomiting on him, trust me it works. Grandma not again. My neighbor invited me to a cookout and he was like, by the way, my wife's cousin is here. She kinda wants you two to date or whatever. And date we did. She's been by my side through my drug addiction as she stayed sober from alcohol. She called DCFS on me and had my daughter, from a previous marriage, taken from my custody and into my second mom's care when I was very strung out. If it weren't for that slap in the face by reality, I wouldn't have ever gotten sober. She not only saved me, but my daughter and I's relationship as well. I got clean, my daughter back, and now I'm in school to be a social worker. I'm doing much better now and she and I got married on July 4th last year. We celebrated the birth of our second daughter, my second, her first, even though she's a wonderful stepmom to my oldest daughter, on July 3rd this year, and our first wedding anniversary was about a month ago. I love that woman so damn much. And both my girls. I was working at a video game shop, and he was hired to DJ the midnight release of a game I didn't care for. He comes in, waits in the giant line of people finalizing their pre-order before midnight. When he gets to the register, I ask him if he's here for the premiere, but he says he wouldn't be caught dead playing that game, and proceeds to purchase a different, older game I later find out he already has. He asks me when I finish my shift, and to swing by the DJ table when I'm off. I do indeed swing by, and now we've been married going on 5 years with 2 cats and a recently purchased home. He proposed by sticking the ring inside the case of the game he bought that night. This is so cute. I am also intensely curious what was the game. Also my partner and I met through D&D and if he doesn't somehow propose to me using D&D I will be incredibly disappointed, though probably still say yes. I tripped and rolled down a hill, embarrassing myself in front of my girlfriend and her roommate. Anyways, the roommate and I are married now. Damn, so many stories here, like yours, could be the plot of a nice rom-com anime. You know that moment at church the pastor says now stand up and say hi to someone you never met? Anyways, we're married now. What's it like being married to a pastor? Shortly after we met he asked me, do you trust me? I said, laughed and said no. Anyhow, we're married now. Sounds like my story. I got a random text that said, can you keep a secret? To which I replied honestly, no. Turns out my mechanic stole my number off a service sheet which could get him fired. Anyways, we're married now. I swiped right on someone who was the exact opposite of my type. Short, big teeth, not ambitious, really skinny. He was leaving town the morning after our date. He was a good half hour late to the date, muttered softly, and was bad with eye contact. I only went on the date because I'd had really fucked up stuff happen to me and I just wanted one date with someone that wasn't going to lead to anything just to feel normal. Anyway, we just had our first kid. Congrats on the mini person. In college, this girl fell on me. I was sitting beneath her bed watching a movie in her dorm room by ourselves as a bro night. I thought she was super cute, but I didn't really think I had much of shot with her. We had also just become friends not too recently before that, and I didn't want to ruin this nice connection we had been developing. In any case, she kinda jumped on top of me. I had been a wrestler in high school, and she had mentioned before how she wanted to pin me. She definitely didn't pin me though. Even being out of practice in college, I still, gently, kicked her ass. Later on, that girl said she really missed a cuddle partner and wanted to spend the night in my arms, which I assumed to be non-romantic cuddling. I declined, worried that I'd made it awkward somehow. It took me a bit to put those pieces together. In any case, we're soon to be married now. My uncle met my aunt while shitting on the side of the road drunk while his friends laughed hysterically. She was walking somewhere that I don't remember. He then stared at her for a solid minute, then passed out. She started laughing and they started dating 2 days later. Anyways, now they're married. And that, son, is why drinking is good for you. She actually got him completely clean. That's one reason why he's madly in love with her. So my brother's college roommate called me for legal advice because his crazy ex was being super crazy. Anyway, we're married now 7 years come November. 2 kids and a house. How does that actually happen? I'd feel super inappropriate making a move on someone I was getting a professional service from, no matter how attractive I found them. I mean, it's kind of a common sense thing and people will usually cringe at the idea of someone doing that. I mean, I'm assuming they made the move on you. My SO and I have been together since 2012, marriage was never really a huge concern of ours. In 2016 I found a large lump in my breast. I didn't have insurance, he did. Anyways, we're married now. I'm fine, just have fibrocystic breast disease, which is common and non-threatening. I read fibrocystic and that translated in my head to cystic fibrosis and got worried. Our first date was a disaster of epic proportions. Ended with me yelling at her, and her paying the check while I was in the latrine just so she could get out of there quicker. Anyways, we're married now, over 8 years strong. 2 kids. I can't see my life without this beautiful, crazy person, and I like to think she feels the same way. On a first date, at a Starbucks, we were getting to know one another, and the conversation turned to the general location, neighborhood in which I lived. I mentioned the name of the apartment complex I was currently living in, which she ended up being quite familiar with, being a 911 dispatcher local to that area, in South Florida. So she jokingly responded, "Wait, you're not one of those rehabbers, are you?" And I responded that yes. Yes, I was. There was a good minute of silence after that, a few awkward attempts at some more small talk, and the date ended. But anyways, we're married now. When I was 13, I met a girl, Debbie, at summer camp. She talked about her horses and attending the big interstate fair every year with her 4-H group. On my 13th birthday I went to the fair and looked Debbie up. She agreed to go to the carnival with me, but wasn't all that interested. I can't blame her, 13-year-old me was a dweeb. She brought along her annoying girlfriend Renee to keep me from getting too fresh, which worked. I was determined to get Debbie alone, not that I knew exactly why, so I took the girls on the tip-top ride. Renee got sick, got off the ride, and puked. Debbie and Renee used that as an excuse to split, and I never saw Debbie again. 3 years later, a beautiful new girl with long black hair moved out on my school bus line. I was immediately interested, and began a much smoother conversation. We went out a couple weeks later, and went to a carnival. She took me on the tip-top, and I puked. That girl was Renee. We were both 3 years older, and anyways, we're married now, for 41 years. I stared at her chest the first time I met her. She noticed. I was friend-zoned. Anyways, now we are married and have a kid, and it's wonderful. Is it possible to learn this power? Just look at her eyes, and then lower your gaze down, till you see her chest. Voila, you're looking at her boobs now. I met this girl. She started calling me, then every time I went out to eat or to a movie she showed up. Sometimes I would come home from work and she would be waiting outside my place with dinner. The last time she came over she never left. Sure, she leaves for a bit, but comes right back. Anyways, I said why the fuck not, and we are married now. You sir married a stray cat. Don't leave food on the deck. Hooked up from Craigslist. Anyway, we're married now. Do people still do this today, or is it just a way to get murdered now? Substitute Yahoo Personals for Craigslist and that would be us. Met for a hookup, then spent the next few months trying to pretend that we weren't falling for each other. Didn't work, been married 17 years now. A friend of my brother's had a drinking problem in college. One day he crashed his truck in the side of the road and a man walked up and said, "You okay?" "Yep." "You drunk?" "Yep." "Get in my car, I'll get in here and tell the cops I lost control." The guy got in the man's car, got in the back seat, and sat next to his future wife. What was the wife's relation to the stranger? She crashed her car on the other side of the road. My sister met his husband arguing in a bus for a seat. She came saying how he was the ugliest and rudest man she ever met, and now they've been married for 5 years. This girl ordered chicken fingers from me at Fuddruckers. Anyways, we're married now. Classic rat fuckers. And now I'm worried that I won't ever get married because there aren't any more Fuddruckers restaurants around. My boyfriend cheated on me with the girl his roommate introduced him to. The roommate felt bad when he found out that I had not in fact been broken up with first, and told me what had been going on. Anyways, we're married now, the 8 years married, second child arriving in 6 weeks. The drummer for a band I was in told his girlfriend at the time that she wasn't allowed to talk to me because she would just try and fuck me anyways. His now ex-girlfriend and I are married with 4 kids. Can't say he wasn't wrong though. Evidence shows you two ficked at least 4 times. Ex-girlfriend and I are married with 4 kids. Maybe it's because English isn't my first language, but hold up. So we went downtown in college to celebrate a friend's 21st birthday. My date for the evening had a few too many cocktails and ended up getting kicked out of the bar because she used the utility closet as a bathroom. I left to walk her home. But anyways, we're marrying next month.